Chapter 12 showed us many different things. For example, it showed us how the Florida Shuffle exposed a lot of things that were going on when it comes to like the sober home industry and the insurers. And they also talked about the policy of solutions. They talked about how it, reflects a necessary shift towards stronger federal and state accountability. And that's important because they have a lot more to do with it than they portray, in my opinion. Something else that was talked about that's very important in this chapter is the ACA, which is known as the Affordable Care Act. And to private insurers, basically, it could reduce fraud by tying payments to a measurable recovery outcomes rather than like different services and everything. Another thing talked about in chapter 12 is the ADA, which is the Americans with Disability Act. The ADA is known to protect individuals in recovery from housing discrimination, and it also limits local government's ability to regulate sober homes, which I feel like is a good thing in some way. But they both help prevent exploitation when it comes to like these different disabilities and everything. When it comes to Governor Gavin Newsom's veto of California's sober home living accountability bill, I feel like it's very important, but at the same time, like, we don't really know. He was concerned that the requirements to unlicensed sober homes could create confusion between licensed treatment facilities and recovery residents, reflects a technical regulatory gap rather than a reason to, avoid reform, which is also very important because I feel like it could create confusion. It's not hard at all. But rather than, causing confusion and everything, it could also increase transparency and public trust, which is also very important because as we see, like, the public, they obviously don't trust these sober homes or these programs. And it's not a bad thing that they don't trust because at the end of the day, like, they have a reason to not trust them. But basically, Governor Gavin, his logic highlights a big challenge, but it doesn't outweigh the need for protection and, taking accountability. Something else that was talked about is MAR, which is a certification or state license through the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. This is important because it ensures like consistent safety. Like, it doesn't just ensure safety in one place or at one point of time. And it also, something that's very significant about it is that it's for all sober homes, like not just one, which is very important because I believe if every sober home like had the same policies and everything, it would be easier to maintain people and maintain everything, not just people, and like help them recover, which is the goal. Even though there are things that they try to do to stop them from recovering, we know at the end of the day that's the goal. But I feel like without it, the states would keep like risk repeating the same patterns that we see within the Florida Shuffle, which is why it is important that things get better and we use what we know to ensure that risks are limited